Chapter 1. 7-Year Gap. February 2026. A digital ghost has returned to haunt the financial world. The U.S. Department of Justice just dumped 3 million pages of confidential documents, the infamous Epstein files, and buried within those millions of words, one name kept surfacing alongside the world's most transparent currency, Bitcoin. The headlines are screaming. Did the world's most notorious predator fund the birth of Satoshi's vision? Today, we aren't just looking at rumors. We are dissecting the blueprint of a shadow that tried to swallow the sun. The trail starts in the dark hallways of the MIT Media Lab, a sanctuary for the world's brightest minds. Internal logs now reveal a disturbing secret. Between 2002 and 2017, Jeffrey Epstein made 10 separate donations, totaling $850,000, funneled through Joy Ito. He didn't just write checks, he sat in private meetings with the leaders of the Digital Currency Initiative. Imagine that. A man who built a kingdom on human leverage and hidden islands, sitting across the table from the people defining the future of decentralization. Why? Because Epstein sought a digital offshore, a dark corner where his crimes and his money could be encrypted forever. He wasn't just donating, he was trying to buy a seat at the table where the future of money was being written. He wanted to own the code before the code owned the world. But every architect knows that a structure built on a chronological line cannot stand. The conspiracy theorists, they love to claim that Epstein funded the genesis of Bitcoin. They look at the names at MIT and they assume the money created the machine. But the math simply doesn't work. Bitcoin was born in 2008, in the middle of a global financial ruin. It was unleashed on a simple mailing list by a figure who demanded no permission and accepted 0 investors. The MIT Digital Currency Initiative, the very organization Epstein tried to infiltrate, it didn't even exist until 2015. That is 7 years after Satoshi's white paper was already carved into the bedrock of the internet. Epstein was a vulture, a predator, trying to find a perch on a building that was already built with unbreakable steel. He could buy the researchers, he could buy the directors, he could even buy silence at the world's most prestigious university. But he could never, ever buy the protocol. This is where the mystery turns into a revelation. Why are we, as humans, so obsessed with finding a mastermind behind Bitcoin? Because for centuries, power has always meant people. We are used to shadow boards, secret funders, and central control. We find it hard to believe that a system can exist without a master. But Bitcoin is different. It is a network of rules, not rulers. It is the first system in human history that is truly indifferent to who you are. It doesn't care about your bank account. It doesn't care about your crimes. And it certainly doesn't care about Jeffrey Epstein. He could corrupt the people, but he couldn't change a single block in the ledger. Scandals rewrite history books. They don't rewrite blocks. Epstein failed to hijack the code. The math held firm. But did he succeed in hijacking the companies built on top of it? Did his money find a way into the exchanges we use today? Chapter 2. $3 million to Coinbase. What if the most secure financial system ever built had a backdoor? No, not in the code, not in the math. The backdoor was in the room where the code was written. Imagine a man who arrived 7 years too late to build the foundation, but had enough blood money to buy the architects. Jeffrey Epstein knew he couldn't be Satoshi, so he decided to do something far more dangerous. He decided to own the gatekeepers. Tonight, we follow a paper trail that leads from a dark island to the heart of the MIT Media Lab. This is not just a conspiracy theory. This is the structural analysis of a hijacking. In episode 1, we proved the 7 gap. We showed that the timeline of Jeffrey Epstein and the birth of Bitcoin simply do not align. The foundation was poured in 2008. Epstein didn't enter the frame until 2015, but every architect knows a building's integrity depends on more than just the blueprints. It depends on the people who walk the halls. Epstein was a master of the social hack. He understood that while the Bitcoin protocol is decentralized, the people maintaining it are not. They have bills to pay, they have research to fund, and they have egos that can be stroked. While the world was busy looking for Satoshi's identity, Epstein was looking for Satoshi's successors. He wasn't hunting for a ghost. He was hunting for the keys to the heart of the system. Enter the MIT Media Lab, specifically a project called the Digital Currency Initiative, or DCI. This wasn't just another tech lab. This was the sanctuary, where the core development of Bitcoin was being shielded from corporate interests. Or so we were told. Internal logs and leaked emails from 2015 tell a disturbing story. Joy Ito, the director of the lab, was in deep with Epstein. Even after Epstein was a convicted predator, even after he was a social pariah, the money kept flowing. But it was marked. It was labeled anonymous. Why hide it? Because Epstein's money was a biohazard. It was a virus designed to infect the very people who held the future of the blockchain in their hands. By funding the DCI, by paying the salaries of the core developers, Epstein wasn't donating to science. He was buying a seat at the table where the rules of the future were being written. He was building a shadow gate. Now, we look at the money trail. In the mid-2000s, a transaction surfaced, a $3 million check linked to Coinbase. At the time, Coinbase was the primary ramp for the entire world to enter the crypto space. If you wanted Bitcoin, you went through them. Think about the scale. In 2015, $3 million could buy a lot of Bitcoin. But Epstein didn't just want the coins. He wanted the infrastructure. He was aggressively investing in the companies that built the on-ramps and off-ramps. Why? Because if you control the exit, you control the room. He used a web of offshore accounts and shell companies to funnel wealth into the early crypto ecosystem. He was building a parallel system, a predator's Bitcoin, a version of the future where anonymity didn't protect the citizen. It protected the criminal. This was his revenge for missing the birth. If he couldn't be the creator, he would be the landlord. The tragedy of the Epstein files isn't just the money, it's the silence he purchased. Researchers, brilliant minds, and visionaries, they all saw the shadow, and they all took the check. This is the structural failure of the Epstein files. It proves that decentralization is only as strong as the moral foundation of the humans who build it. Epstein didn't need to hack the SHA-256 algorithm. He didn't need to find Satoshi's private keys. He just needed to find the price of the people who maintained the servers. The 7 gap was his motivation. Because he was excluded from the Genesis, he became obsessed with the hijacking. He wanted to graft his corrupt network onto the world's most honest ledger. Bitcoin survived Jeffrey Epstein. The code is still there. The blocks are still being mined. But did it survive the people who opened the door for him? Chapter 3. $158 million lust. The blueprint of deception. What if the most secure system in human history was being built by the most compromised people on Earth? Bitcoin was designed to be a glass house, transparent, unbreakable, decentralized. SHA 256. The code is pure. The code is honest. But as any architect knows, even the most perfect blueprint fails if the foundation is built on poisoned soil. For years, we've been told that Bitcoin is a movement of the people. But in this investigation, we've uncovered a dark tunnel running directly under the structure. This is a story of social engineering at the highest level. Today, we strip away the masks of the titans of Silicon Valley and Wall Street. These men didn't just meet a monster, they gave him the bricks to build his throne. Who allowed a convicted predator to walk through the front door of Bitcoin's evolution? Today, we name the billionaire enablers. This is episode 3, section 2. Reid Hoffman. Let's start with the man who knows everyone. Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, the king of networking in the tech world. Hoffman's word is law. If he introduces you, you are validated. But one connection remains a dark stain on his blueprint. Even after 2008, after the world knew about Jeffrey Epstein's dark history, Hoffman didn't close the door. Instead, he built a bridge. Hoffman didn't just know Epstein, he championed him. He introduced him to Joi Ito and the heart of the MIT Media Lab. He sat at the same table while a predator looked for his next target in high technology. Hoffman was the social architect who designed the path for a monster to enter the sanctuary of Bitcoin research. The brightest minds, developing the future of money, were being funded by a man Hoffman brought to the table. Was it a blind spot? Can a man who built a multi-billion-dollar network based on human behavior really be that blind? No. It was an exchange, a trade of social capital for the shadows. Section 3. Bill Gates. Then, we move to the peak of the pyramid. Bill Gates, the man who redefined himself from a ruthless software titan to the world's greatest philanthropist, a saint in a green sweater. But even the brightest saints have shadows. Multiple private dinners, late-night meetings, and flights on the private jet, known as the Lolita Express. Why? The official story is that they were discussing a global health fund. But ask yourself, why would the world's most successful philanthropist need a convicted predator to design a fund? In our world, this is called reputation laundering. Epstein didn't need Gates's money. He needed the light of Gates. He needed the halo of a saint to wash away the stench of his crimes. And Gates, for reasons that remain locked in a vault, gave him the soap. It wasn't a mistake in the blueprint. It was a fundamental flaw in the foundation of global leadership. When a saint breaks bread with a monster, the structure of trust begins to crumble. Section 4. The $158 million question. But if you want to see the real price of silence, we must look at the glass towers of Wall Street. Leon Black, the founder of Apollo Global Management, a titan who moves markets with a single call. Between 2012 and 2017, Leon Black paid Jeffrey Epstein a staggering $158 million. Look at that number. 158 million. The official reason? Tax and estate planning. Let's be real. You don't pay a high school dropout for complex tax blueprints. You pay that for a shadow bridge. You pay that for influence. You pay that for access to networks that don't appear on any map. Epstein knew where the bodies were buried under the very skyscrapers Leon Black built. In the history of Bitcoin mystery, this remains the largest single payment from the light into the shadows. What was Leon Black really buying? Advice or silence? Section 5. The Fragile Sanctuary. The code of Bitcoin remains untouched, but the human infrastructure was touched by the shadows. When we see the kings of technology and the masters of finance building bridges for monsters, we must ask, who are we really trusting our future to? Decentralization is just a word. If the men holding the keys are built on a foundation of lies, this investigation is a warning. The technology is honest, but the gatekeepers are compromised. The shadows are moving closer. They are integrated into the very blueprints of the institutions we trust. If the foundation is built on blood and silence, the structure will not hold. Stop looking at the light. Start looking at the shadows. Chapter 4. Epstein versus Satoshi. We have reached the end of the labyrinth. For 3 episodes, we've tracked the shadows, the 7-year silence, the $3 million move, and the $158 million influence. But all these paths lead to a single name. Meet the man who signed the check, Leslie Wexner, the billionaire architect of a fashion empire, who gave a power of attorney over his entire life to the monster we've been tracking. It wasn't just Epstein's money. It was Wexner's unlimited capital. This was old money, attempting a hostile takeover of the new world. Wexner and his agent didn't try to hack the Bitcoin code. They tried to buy the brains behind it. By funding the MIT Digital Currency Initiative, they built a shadow bridge. They wanted to control the developers, to steer the future of Bitcoin into the hands of the elite. It was a perfect plan, a siege from the inside, using fame, prestige, and blood-stained cash. But the final architect of the shadows failed. Why? Because Bitcoin is not a corporation. You cannot buy its CEO. Even when the human infrastructure at MIT was compromised, the code remained pure. Wexner's millions could buy people, but they could not buy the 100,000 nodes that guard the truth. And this is where we find the true architect, Satoshi Nakamoto. Why did he disappear? Why did he leave the throne empty for 7 long years? He knew. He knew the kings of the old world would come with their bribes and their threats. By walking away, Satoshi created the ultimate defense. An empty throne cannot be corrupted. A leaderless system cannot be surrendered. Leslie Wexner tried to build a bridge of control. Satoshi Nakamoto built a sanctuary of mathematics. The bridge collapsed. The sanctuary remains. Humans are corruptible. Sanctuaries can fall. But the Bitcoin ledger never lies. My name is Bitcoin Mystery. Our investigation ends here, but the mining of the truth has only just begun.